Hey friends, it's Asher here. I wanted to do a video while it's still fresh in my mind about Maritime Admiralty Law, which is the law of the sea and the law of the land, right? There's two separate laws that are in effect in this world, and we need to understand it more because we've basically our humanity has been engineered away from us in a sense by these laws, and we've been turned into a product, okay? And it's a little bit hard to understand, but there's two laws, right? There's the law of the land. In other words, if you go to a certain country, you're under the law of that particular land, right? And that culture's laws. But there's also a higher law, which is the law of the water, right? The law of the high seas. And that is where it gets a little bit dicey, right? When you think about money and banking institutions, religious institutions, and things like that, are all under the control of maritime admiralty law, right? For example, certain churches are broken down into denominations, right? Well, a denomination can also be money. That's money. A denomination, 20s, 50s, or hundreds, right? If you go to the bank. So these things are under the control of maritime admiralty law, and we're not aware of it. So, for instance, all ships are named after a woman, right? They have to be, in fact. There's no ship, you never see a ship that's named with a man's name. It doesn't happen because of maritime admiralty law, right? And when a ship shows up somewhere with product, it manifests, right? In other words, the ship wasn't there yesterday, and the next day it's there. By the way, Jordan Maxwell is the man who you would want to look this up with too if you want to get a really in-depth uh, explanation about this. But I'm going off notes from watching Jordan Maxwell here, and he gives you a really good understanding of it. So a ship, it manifests, right? And when it manifests, the captain has to go to the dockmaster or the port authorities and give a manifest of what's on the ship, right? Every item, how much it weighs, what it is, etc. And so we're talking about the law of the high seas now, right? When a ship shows up, it sits in its berth, right? Its berth, okay? And if you think about what steers water, right, in a river is the river banks. So the river banks steer the water, right? So the banks are steering the water. The water is the juice. The water is the money, right? Products coming in on water, okay? So you have, if you think about what is a merchant banker, right, you have to go back to the Phoenicians, who, the word mer meaning sea or water, right? Mer. And so you have merchant banker, right? A banker on the water, or something to do with the water and money. And cana meaning captain, or captain coming from the word cana meaning merchant or banker. So a banker on the water, mer, right? So when you're born, right, and your mother goes into labor, you come down through the birth canal, right? Water. And then you're born into the world. You manifest, right? In other words, you weren't there yesterday and the next day you're there. You manifest. And you need a certificate from the doctor that you were born, right? You've manifested now. And if for some reason something gets damaged and you die and you don't make it, you need a death certificate, okay? From the doctor. Same thing. The doctor brings you into the world and he brings you out of the world, okay? You have to get signed out because you're a product of Maritime Admiralty Law. You came in through water in your mother's birth canal. You manifested in the world and you were given a birth certificate. You were delivered like a product, right? You're delivered in the emergency room, in the birthing room by a doctor, right? And you need a certificate now because you've manifested, okay? So it's a game, right? When you go into court, what's court? Court of law, right? But don't you play tennis on a tennis court and you use a racket, right? So what is court? Court is a game. It's a racket. You get it? So you need to understand how words work, right? That's why the Statue of Liberty is called the Statue of Liberty. It's not called the Statue of Freedom. That's why it's on water. You understand? Because you're not free. If you were free, it would be called the Statue of Freedom, and it'd be on land. But you're not free. So they put it on water, and they called it the Statue of Liberty, right? Because liberty is something that ends. It doesn't go on forever. If you're on a ship and you get liberty, you get it for a certain amount of days usually, right? Or hours or time. And then you got to go back to the ship. So they tricked us. They turned you into a product that's bought and sold through your birth certificate, traded as a product, as a stock, an asset of the corporation. You're not free. You never were. And you never were human in these people's eyes. You were turned into a product of Maritime Admiralty Law because you were delivered through water. And when you're delivered as a product through water, you're under the law of Maritime Admiralty Law now, not the law of the land anymore. See? So that's the problem. It's the law of money, the juice. The way the money gets steered is through a riverbank. Okay? The riverbank steers the juice. The juice is the water. They turned you into the juice in a sense because you got delivered through water. This goes back to, the Canaanites, way back, Phoenicians. You got to look it all up. Land of Canaan, right? So what's the judge do in the court? He wears a black robe, and what does he do? He referees the game. He doesn't care who wins. He gets paid either way. And that's really it, right? That's Maritime Admiralty Law. That's how they tricked you. That's how they got you and turned you into a product. And the way they did it is through you get a birth certificate of birth, that you manifested at a certain date and time at a place, and then you were delivered, just like a product is from the store that you buy. So that's how they messed up the world. You're talking about this is old systems that are still in place, and we got to understand it. That's why you got to understand words, like Jordan Maxwell says. Because if you put an S in front of words, it turns into swords, right? And you could be used as a weapon. So these people turned us into a product of Maritime Admiralty Law. So look it up. Do some more research on your own. That's just a basic synopsis of some of the Jordan Maxwell material. And he says it much more eloquently than I can. But the point is that if you understand these terms and where words originate from, like mer, it's the sea, right? Mermaid. Get it? Right. These are tricks that they use because they think we're too stupid to know. But if you start to look up where words originate from and the history of things, you can learn about stuff like this, Maritime Admiralty Law, and how you really never were free. And on top of it, they stuck a statue in New York Harbor to trick you into thinking you were. And it's a beautiful statue. Nothing against the Statue of Liberty. It's a lie. So once you realize that, you realize you never were free. And that's what we're fighting for right now. So I wish you all love, peace, and go check out a guy named Jordan Maxwell. He's a genius, and he knows a lot about Maritime Admiralty Law. I wish you well and peace. Thank you.